From the Wayne County Courthouse in Goldsboro, North Carolina, Wayne Goldsboro Television brings you the meeting of the Wayne County Board of Commissioners. The meeting begins shortly with an agenda briefing, then the regular meeting will begin soon after. Please stand by for the Wayne County Board of Commissioners meeting.
Good morning and welcome back. Let's see here. Let me get my act together. Okay, let's go to the agenda very quickly. I'll be calling to order, then Philip Sexton will be coming to give the prayer this morning, I understand.
Yes.
Mr. Gurley, we've got the pledge, we've spoken the minutes, and I believe we do have a adjustment to the agenda.
We've got several adjustments and handouts. First thing to give Carol is, this is the interim budget that we'll be doing, and that's not an addition, but we will go forward with that. It looks like the legislature has agreed, but as y'all know, we still have the process for them finally voting, and then, of course, the governor could veto it, so we're going to do an interim budget and just make sure, and then come back in July at a special meeting. But we did get word last night that it's in, our provision is in.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
Joe
got something. You want to go over that?
They can.
We basically got word from John that it's in. So
When you say it's in,
the budget, the reconciled budget bill.
did they drop that to 17?
I didn't get that. He just said our
It's in.
$2 million is in there.
The 2 million, okay.
I think the way he fixed it would take care of it forever and ever.
Really? That was,
Do what?
The way he fixed it in the bill, it would cover forever and ever, not just.
not just 2 years, so we don't have to chase that rabbit. But that's good.
Wait a minute.
I like that word term, forever and ever.
I got ahead of myself when I handed out to you, but go ahead and keep it, this is what we would adopt when we adopt the regular budget. So what this is the list of changes that you voted on the other day. So go ahead and keep a copy of this, review it, make sure we picked up everything, because at a special meeting, once we know the governor signed the budget bill, we'll come back and adopt this. I got ahead of myself. This is not the interim budget. The interim budget is in your packet.
Beginning at page 10.
Yeah, beginning at page 10. We do need to add 3 things. One is, I believe, you all got a copy of an email from Craig last night, but I'm going to pass these out. This is the memo again. Carol, if you wouldn't mind, just hand those across. And this is on the architect for the Public Safety Training Center.
Mr. Chairman, go back to this thing. Are you going to bring this back up?
Not today.
I've just got a question on this in regards to, we deleted the funding for the MRAC storage building of $83,000.
No, actually, you left it in, but if you remember, for the blue, we got an $83,000 budget.
Okay. That's right.
So it reduces the amount of money.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm trying to catch up.
No, that's fine. And we can go through it today if y'all
No,
want
I'm
to.
fine.
Okay.
First, I look good.
Okay, so under unfinished business, we'd like to add the architect for the training center. Our committee met last night, as Craig says in his memo. This committee had whittled it down. I believe we started out with 11. Yeah, with 11 submittals. They whittled them down to 3, and we interviewed those yesterday afternoon. And around 5 o'clock, the committee came to a unanimous recommendation on Stewart Cooper Newell on these services. So that's who we're recommending that you authorize us to now negotiate with to come up with a contract, come back to you with a contract on this. And this is on the public safety training facility. Okay.
Is it gonna be on a new business or consent?
I would put it under unfinished business because we've had it.
Okay.
Y'all have authorized us to go out for it before. I'd put that as number 2, adding the architect.
Mr. Chairman, if I could
Yes.
inquire. Am I understanding this is the training center that we're going to build out at the community
Community
college?
college.
I have never seen a project move so fast. I mean, that's just amazing. But I'm glad to see that.
Well, we've had time while they were reviewing everything.
But you have to admit,
Yeah,
there's a pretty
Craig had-
fast movement on the
Yeah,
project.
Craig and Noel had the RFQ ready to go.
I mean, you've already interviewed, you're
Yeah,
ready to make the selection.
We're ready to move.
Good.
That's why I commented when he sent it out, because I'm glad to see the thing move so quickly.
Yeah.
Because I'm in agreement with you, it just didn't happen.
It did, I've never seen a project move so
Yeah.
fast. Just goes to show you, all you gotta do is get the sheriff and the firefighters involved with something.
Actually, I think it's because the assistant manager did it.
Oh, okay.
But it doesn't hurt to have them on board, that's for sure. Okay, the second thing is we wanted to add budget amendments, and I think we already have budget amendments in here, but that was to add more. Is that
Right,
right?
Gordon just asked if we wanted to put them behind the budget amendments in consent agenda.
I would think so.
Yeah, but we'll have you go over them at the 8 o'clock meeting. Okay, and the last thing is Noel wanted to add some real property sales. This is where we and Goldsboro own some property together, and she wanted to add those to it. Who has that?
I have that.
You have that?
You can put that under new business, or?
I would put that under new business as number 6.
Thank you.
And there's it. The last thing, Carol, before you sit down. The last thing, we had put on here, a motion to approve the Wayne Executive Jetport Transportation Improvement Program, but I was waiting to get it back from W.K. Dixon. So this is the list of that we'll be going over as well and asking you to vote on. But it's already on the agenda as number 5 under new business. And with that, I think that's all the folders I brought in here.
Thank you.
Say you're finished?
I think I am.
Okay. All right, great. Got some special recognitions this morning, public comments, and you have any reports?
No report.
This morning? And you brought that up just a minute ago to approve the interim budget, and then we'll come back after the governor signs the budget bill, and get that done for the full budget. And then the consent agenda, I guess our present use value step is all in order, I think.
Yes.
And exclusions for elderly and disabled veteran. And the budget amendments, if we could.
Yes.
Talk about those.
I apologize for my voice ahead of time. First budget amendment, you have 2 sets of memos. The one that was in your agenda packet is the first set of budget amendments and memos that I'm going to go over. For the detention center, $10,000 is a reallocation, and this is to purchase additional riot gear for the detention officers. For the Jetport, we're asking to reallocate $20,000 from the avgas line item to jet fuel. I'm sorry. And this is because we've got that UNC healthcare agreement now, and the jet fuel sales have increased. So we had some monies left from the avgas line item that we were not using. We're just reallocating to cover those costs. For the sheriff's office, $9,500. They are requesting to reallocate some funds to replace a boat motor for the dive team. This was a motor that was damaged during Hurricane Matthew, and so they are asking to reallocate funds to replace that. For the library, the Smart Start grant, we've had an increase in the anticipation and appropriation of this grant, and so we are also adjusting the corresponding line items for the program. Yes, sir. Sure.
The $9,500 motor,
Right.
boat motor, how could it be damaged in the hurricane?
I'm not sure. Let me see if there's something, there's not anything behind this one. We've just got the motor was damaged during the hurricane, but I'll be glad to get them here at the 9 o'clock if you'd like
Well,
some
if
more.
we can just find out that.
Sure.
Follow-up question. Okay.
Do what?
Because it
I hope it did good. All right.
Allison, ask you a question. Could that be eligible for FEMA reimbursement?
I'll ask about that. Angie's been keeping track of that, and she's been keeping up with it, so I'll check on that
Okay.
between the 8 and 9 o'clock meeting
Makes
too. Okay, so that was the sheriff's office, and then the library Smart Start grant. Then we have another budget amendment for the library for the, this is for the Library Services and Technology Act Lifelong Learning Grant, and they are reallocating some monies in those line items for the grant-related expenditures. For animal control, they've received a donation of $100, so we are anticipating and appropriating that for that program. Then you have number 541 through 548. These are several budget amendments that are related to teacher scholarships that were granted years ago, and we are requesting approval to write these off. These are deemed uncollectible by our auditors and by the finance office, and we will send them to debt set-off to attempt further collection, but at this point, given that we've not had much activity, the auditors have asked us to go ahead and get those written off.
Those go back to the early 90s, don't they?
It goes back a ways. I'm not even sure what years they started. Mr. Wood, do you remember what year that was?
No, I think it was the early 90s.
Okay.
Mr. Chuck, how many more things are we gonna find that has slipped through the crack that should have been done? This is,
30 years.
it's ridiculous.
And Mr. Sheriff, if I could inquire, do we still have a teacher scholarship program?
No, sir.
Okay.
Now we got that.
Good, that was a good question.
It was terminated when we couldn't collect the money that we were supposed to collect. And
Yeah.
efforts have been made to try to collect this, but some people are judgment proof.
There's a couple of these, there's three of them, $11,000 apiece. I mean,
We hope they've got jobs so we can collect it out of that stuff.
they got paid not to go to school more than we get paid to sit up here.
Moving on.
Okay, then you have another set of budget amendments, number 550 through 553. These are write-offs, and we're doing these because it is near the end of our fiscal year, and our auditors ask us to review our accounts receivable. These are write-offs related to various items with planning, and there's a list behind each budget amendment. You have stormwater for $995, mobile home parks, $6,325.
Let's stop on that one. Why can't that be collected?
We've made several attempts. Now, these will be sent off at debt, these will be sent to debt set-off for further collection. All of these will be sent to debt set-off.
I think the statute is run on some of it.
I think I have a question. Could we refuse future permits to these individuals that owe?
Change your ordinance to do that, yes.
I think you're gonna catch most of it through the debt set-off, though. Really?
I mean, at a certain point, when we've made certain efforts to collect the debt, we have to look at it and see, you know, how much staff time are we using versus how much we're actually going to collect on it. And so at that point, when you really have spent about as much as you could collect, we deem it uncollectible and turn it off over to debt set off.
So if I'm understanding, any tax refunds that any of these people would be entitled to would be withheld and sent to us as debt set off?
That's right. I mean, it would have to be, you know, routed through this program that we use for debt set off. But anything that they have coming in, they collect that for us.
It's North Carolina tax reform.
Right.
Right.
And we are not the top of the list. For instance, if somebody owes child support, that's above 10.
And then I think there's some junkyard inspections and billboard signs, so there's 4 different categories here being written off. Any other questions on those before we, okay. All right, okay, she has some information on the boat motor.
They said that it hit the road during the storm and that the motor was not, I don't know nothing about motors, that the motor was not strong enough for the swift water that it was in.
Probably damaged that lower.
Did you say it hit the road?
It hit the road.
Hit the road? What do you mean it hit the road? It fell off?
I say that it hit the pavement.
Water's probably too shallow.
Oh, okay.
They damaged the lower units, what they did.
And back to FEMA question.
Is she working on the FEMA question?
I had presented that to her when that first came in, so I'm sure that she's working on that.
One last question is, that if it hit the road, would that not be covered under some type of an insurance?
Seem to be.
It would seem to be. Have
Yeah,
they?
it depends on the cause, you know, if you have a motor and you don't lift it,
Lower
when you trailer it, I don't think you can get an insurance.
I've got a Sea-Doo that we ran onto the trailer and tore it all to pieces.
And you got it.
And the insurance company paid for it, and it was our fault. I'm just,
Depends on the deductible.
well, yes, and the insurance company.
And collision, full coverage versus limited coverage.
Well, I just think we need to check in to see whether or not we can get rid of it.
She did say that this one was kind of on its last leg anyway before all of that happened.
Well, don't tell the insurance company.
I just got off the phone, also, I didn't realize Janice was working on it, but with Ian Barrett, and he said that it was actually a 25 horsepower. So it was really an underpowered motor anyway for the size of the boat and their usage. It was on their last leg, they hit a road, you know, the water was so high, they hit a road, because they couldn't see it. But we are asking for reimbursement through FEMA, and we actually get it. It's by the hour, so they have reported to us how many hours they were on the boat. And FEMA has all these different codes of reimbursement, so it might be $50 an hour if they used it 100 hours. That's how we're getting our reimbursement, by the number of hours the boat was used. It's kind of like when we submit a reimbursement for our travel, and we get paid 54 cents a mile, it goes towards our wear and tear on our vehicles.
Well, I'm bringing up another question. A 25 horsepower motor doesn't cost $9,500.
They're replacing it with a 55 horsepower Inverude.
A what?
55 horsepower Inverude motor. Evinrude. I'm not a boat person.
We're accountants, not divers.
You were close enough, we could figure it out.
John Effler's on his way over here.
I don't know if we've helped or hindered.
Well, we'll wait till Tom gets here.
Thank y'all very much.
Leave it up to the female to answer both questions.
Okay, the next budget amendment that we're on, number 558, is for the sewer line item, and this is to reallocate some funds for municipal engineering. This was related to work they did for the $820,000 revolving loan that we applied for. And as you recall, we decided we didn't need to use that, but there was some work incurred on behalf of municipal. So we're just covering those invoices. Okay, then for contingency, this is just a reallocation from one contingency line item to another. We had basically a cross in timing of our budget amendments and used too much of one line item, so we're just correcting that basically. Then for central services, this is to reallocate some monies for salaries and related line items for 401K missed earnings. And the final one in this set is for the fire districts, and there's a breakout behind that, but basically the various fire districts where where we've had over collections, we have to turn around and pay that out to them, whatever we collect. In other words, it came in more than what we budgeted, so we're just increasing that line item so we can pay it out to them. And if there's no other questions on those, I'll go to this next section.
Okay.
Okay, we have 5 walk-on budget amendments, which is the additional packet I gave you. For veterans, they received $224.15. This was just some additional monies from a grant that they have to cover some postage. For MRAC, $10,720. This is to cover, as you recall, we put most of their monies in contingency until a director was hired and some expenditures were going to be incurred before the new year. So we're just covering what expenditures we feel like are going to be incurred before June 30 of this year. And it relates to training and dues and subscriptions, things that go along with marketing the MRAC. For finance or FEMA, we are increasing our line item for anticipated reimbursement from FEMA, $9,636.25. This is to anticipate additional funding related to the code red minutes that were used during Hurricane Matthew, which is our alert system. For county capital projects, $55,000. We're reallocating from the misdemeanor jail line item because that project's pretty well closed out. We had some monies left over. We're going to reallocate it to the fiber optic loop project. There was some expenditures that came up with that project that they had no way of knowing about ahead of time. It relates to the railroads and how the fiber is running into the railroads and the permits they've got to have to do that. So this is an estimate of what they think it's going to cost to cover those permits. And then your final budget amendment is for economic development. This is $1,208,000, and this relates to the agreement that was approved in the last board meeting. It was 2 pieces. It was $650,000, which was proceeds from the sale of the building to Mount Olive Pickle, and then the remaining amount is $558,000 that the county was going to cover, but the city of Goldsboro was going to pay back $425,000 of that over a period of 3 years. Is there any questions on those?
Is that just an accounting move to put all the money together for that?
Yes, yes.
Because it's not
And
new money or anything.
Right, and we will set up we'll set up something to anticipate the funding that'll come from the city when the time comes for the reimbursement.
I see we have Tom here. He ain't listening. Tom, would you come out and have some questions about the dive team boat and the motor?
Yes.
Can you kind of describe what happened to the
Okay, for one, I talked to the dive team, the prop actually, or lower unit of the motor, I'm not a boat motor person, hit part of the pavement on one of the roads when it's flooded out, so it's damaged the lower part. Also, the lower part is gonna have to be replaced, but this thing's about the end of its life anyway. Plus, it's a 2-week, it needs to be a more powerful motor, they're gonna go up to about 55 horsepower. And it'll be, bring them up to compliance with a fully enclosed prop too. I guess that's OSHA compliance or whatever.
How big is that boat?
I can't tell you, I don't know. Because I don't know boats anyway.
Well, you just, I think, answered the question. If you're talking about it being brought up to OSHA requirements.
Yeah, I think
a fully
so.
enclosed prop.
Prop is what they're
Is that right?
Yes, sir. And I don't know anything about boats, but that's all I just.
Well, it's okay for the rest of us to run around with an exposed prop, but evidently not in this case. It's gotta be.
I think it's because you got divers in the water.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
Sorry to bother you.
That's all right.
Next time, put that in there, OSHA.
I told him he had to run.
And that's all the business, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next, we'll be talking about the approval resolution to adopting the 13th Amendment to the position classification and pay plan.
Yeah, Geraldine's got that one. And what we're doing there, let's see, 131. This is a number of changes here. Yeah, you want to go ahead?
These are a couple of corrections and basically just some minor changes. The first one is the addition of a library page, which for some reason had never been added to the job classification plan. We only have 3 pages between all 4 libraries, so, but we did add it at a grade 52.
What is a page?
A page is someone, it's typically maybe a high school student who comes in after work. They sort the books that go back to the shelves that have been returned from the patrons, or they assist a patron in finding the book. And typically your hours of operation, that's when you get your most clientele, is right after school starts. It's typically, or after school ends, or in the summertime. So that's typically when you really need a page in the library. The next ones are on soil conservation. It's soil and water. And these are changes that are really mandated by the state so that our titles are in line with their titles. They're minor. And the last one under soil and water is also the addition of an administrative and program assistant. When they moved to MRAC, their staff is so small and stays so busy that there is never anyone in the office when they need someone. So their plan is to put someone in the office to also assist with reports once they get into the MRAC so that the public and our citizens have access to someone in that department. We have the addition of the MRAC director to the pay plan. And also the tax department is eliminating one position. They are adding some duties and responsibilities to another position. So that's just a minor change there. Any questions on any of that?
The position, the soil and water, that's a new position?
It's not a new position. These are positions that are currently there. It's just a title change.
Okay.
Both of those are just a title.
You said it was going to be somebody in the office. I thought you meant.
Oh, I'm sorry, that position, yes, the administrative and program assistant is a new position
Okay.
and was approved to go with this budget.
And this budget has this new position in it?
It does.
Now, that brings up a whole series of other questions, but I won't ask them right now. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. And then we'll have the, after that, we'll have the motion to approve the DWI task force resolution. And we're actually lowering the county's
It lowers
contribution on
the
that.
amount we're getting from them, and also that then lowers the amount of our cash contribution. So we felt like you should vote on it again, just to have the exact numbers on that.
Okay. Then we're going to new business, and I see our health director's already here, and apparently you've got a presentation you're going to be making to us, David.
Briefly.
And then we've got a memorandum from the National Association of the Counties, and just to see if anybody wants to go. And then we're going to have a report on sale of the bonds. And let's see here, next after that. Did you already cover that next one, Geraldine, about the resolution on the policy?
No, this is on personnel policy.
It's a little bit different. I started telling her just to stay up there and go ahead and do it while she was there.
There have not been any changes made to the personnel policy, any considerable changes for a number of years. And as I go through it, or as other department directors go through it and send me emails, I'm trying to make those changes. And there will also be a number of other changes coming up. It really needs to be fine-tuned. But some changes that are taking place now, or that I would like to ask your approval on, are in Article 4, Section 10, and the first one is the probationary period of employment, which now indicates that a person has to be here for 5 years if they're transferring in from another state agency or a local agency to accumulate all of their sick pay to be transferred. They can transfer in 80 hours upon coming to Wayne County, but they have to wait for 5 years if they have any more sick time. So if you have anyone transferring in with a number of years of seniority, that's a long time to have to wait. I did a survey of all of our counties, all 100 of them, and I got a response back from about 35, which is about right. And their probationary period transfer time averages anywhere from none to a maximum of 1 year. So after discussing this with Mr. Wood, we thought it would be appropriate if we just added that at the end of the probationary period, whatever the probationary period is, and it is different for different departments, with the exception of the Sheriff's Department, DSS, and Health, which is a probationary period of 1 year. All of our other departments have a probationary period of 6 months. So our proposal is that we change waiting to transfer that time in to the end of their probationary period. If we don't, it's a real deterrent to people coming from other counties.
If you just said something, I didn't hear what it was.
Let me repeat that.
Trying to turn it down.
Let's see here, all persons requested silence their cellular telephones.
For example, if you're transferring in someone with 10 years' worth of experience to Wayne County, they've accumulated quite a bit of sick time. And to ask them to wait 5 years to transfer in the majority of their sick time is a real deterrent to coming to Wayne County. So we're asking that we do change the probationary period in waiting for that sick time transfer to the end of their probationary period, whether it's 6 months or a year, depending on what department they're in.
Any questions?
What page are you on?
131.
131.
Well,
132. 132.
And I think I did them backwards, actually. The probationary period, the other change is actually a correction in our policy manual. It indicates that all of our departments have a probationary length of time of 6 months, and they do not. Under the state sheriff standards, their probationary time is 1 year. And under the State Personnel Act for DSS and Health, their probationary time is also 1 year. So that is simply an addition or a correction to our personnel policy.
Managers.
I know, it's always Section 5.
If needed.
Had to find it too.
All right, on 131, starting back in the beginning of this, was there any changes in Section 1 and these other sections? In other words, you skipped down to 5 on page 132 on the transfer.
Yes, there is. And I'm sorry, I'm using my working copy. Let me
Okay.
use the copy that is in your book. The first change is in the merit increase and performance evaluation
There we go.
section. And it is actually a clarification under the bullet points primarily, and also under the second paragraph. The changes there are, just a moment.
You remember we had a system where we had grades going down and steps going across, and so we changed the merit increase. So we just changed the language to mirror that new pay plan,
Oh, okay.
or that new merit plan.
Okay.
The next one under Section 2 is under Article 4, Section 4, and it's the application for employment. We do not all use the same application for employment, depending on the department to which they're applying. If you're applying to DSS or to the Health Department, they need to use the state application form. Any other department within the county, we do have a Wayne County application form. And if they're applying to the Sheriff's Department, then they need to use their own application.
But
So it's
doesn't
just
that
a
application look
clarification.
just like the PD 107 anyway?
Mhm.
Oh, it does.
Yeah. And ours are completely fillable online. Under Section 3, under Article 4, Section 6, under the qualified standards, we're changing that paragraph to read, "A review of criminal records and credit report, credit records of final candidates may be conducted by the HR office. Offers of employment are contingent upon a satisfactory background check and credit check." And we're also adding, and this is something that had not been added to the policy, but it is something that we've been doing since I've been here. We do drug screenings, of course, on anyone who is hired part-time, and anyone who is hired full-time also has a physical and a drug screen as well. And depending on what department they're going into, there may be a credit check involved too. So we're adding that section to it.
Do you do random drug tests?
We do not.
Okay.
No, we don't. Under section 4, under Article 4, section 2, that's probationary. And then the transfer. And then the last one gets a little complicated. That's under section 5, under Article 4, section 8, and that's the benefits and other flexible changes. And this is actually involving the 401K to correct it more so than add anything to it. This was not very well clarified in the policy manual as to how our calculations were made going into the 401K and what we were matching. And it also talks about, we have some employees who choose to do a flat rate contribution, choose to do a flat rate, which is absolutely fine. They certainly need to monitor it to making sure that they're getting the proper match, as well as our finance department will monitor it too. And at the bottom, it also explains how those contributions are made based on your total gross salary and the pay types that are included, and what the calculations are not made on, which of course is the cell phone allowance, the uniform allowance, longevity, travel allowance, and the Blue Cross Blue Shield opt-out pay at the end of the year.
Aren't you kind of creating a nightmare for our payroll department of keeping up with, if any employee can say, I want to put $20?
They're having to keep up with it anyway. So it's really not a nightmare. It's really more of a clarification to the employee as to how the calculations are made and their responsibility, and also keeping up with it.
It is their responsibility, obvious. I mean, if we were to catch any that we are finding where they're doing a flat amount and it's putting them below the threshold or just below the threshold, we would certainly try to let them know that if we catch it. We don't have the staff to monitor it on a regular basis because they could make those changes at any time. So it's really the employee's responsibility, and that's why we're also encouraging the percentage, because the percentage is a much easier way to make sure you're getting what you're supposed to get.
We got two problems here. One is they don't have to go to HR to change their deduction. They can do it on Prudential site. Prudential site lets you do it as a percentage, which is what we want, but they also let you do it as a set amount. And that's where some of our employees have gotten into trouble, because our gym software will not allow us to plug in and say, if you contribute up to 2%, we will match whatever you do. It has to be a set amount in gyms. Now, when we switch to new software, we won't have that problem. And then at that point, you'll come back and adjust this policy to say we'll match up to 2%. Then it won't matter if it's a fixed amount or a percentage, it'll just be whatever they are deducting. But our software won't allow us to do that right now. It has to be either 1% or 2%. It has to be a fixed number. And so that's what we're having to do. We're basically adjusting this to match up with what our software will allow.
Still scratching my head on that, but whatever.
Well, what he's saying is that we
I just don't
if you
understand
go
why
on
you don't
gyms and you say,
say.
I want to contribute 1.25%,
Yeah.
they're not going to get that match, because our system will only allow 1% or 2%. It won't allow the incremental changes.
Well, why don't you just give everybody the option? You can either contribute 1% or 2%, but you got to choose one or the other.
Well, because the problem is they can go onto the Prudential site and it
Well, then
doesn't,
tell Prudential they need to change their side.
they won't do that.
Oh, they won't?
It's a
This is
state-run.
It's a state-run
401K.
plan. We're not the only one on it.
So that's the reason it don't work.
There. See? These buzzwords need to come out. OSHA, state-run plan. Thank you.
We think this is the best we can do as long as we have the gym software. Once you get new software in, then you'll change this wording to say that the county will match up to a 2% we'll match you dollar for dollar up to a 2% contribution, and that'll take care of it.
Any other questions on the changes?
Let's go back to drug testing. We do not do random drug testing?
We do not.
How about reasonable suspicion?
You mean for cause?
Because.
If we absolutely have to, we will. Now, typically, we do pre-employment and post-accident.
Okay.
Why do I get a sense that that's almost like taboo, that you would even consider doing a random drug test on a county employee?
Well, random drug tests tend to be a little bit complicated in that if you do not have some kind of automated system which will allow a true random testing, that you can find yourself in legal trouble. And I've known companies that have been known to do that. It's, I would not want to put the county in that position. If we have suspicion, strong suspicion, we can certainly send someone to immediate care, and it's for a cause. But just to randomly select employees is just really not in our best interest right now until we have some kind of a system that we could put in place that would be automated, that would leave us out of it altogether in making any kind of selection or give the appearance of making any kind of random selection.
Yes.
That if we don't do random drug testing, we do it in the private sector for protection of liability. If I have an employee that I'm responsible for their well-being while they're on my clock, if I don't do drug testing and somebody gets hurt, I'm liable as a company. So I think we might be looking at putting ourselves in more of a vulnerable position by not doing it. What we do is we eventually get around to everybody taking the drug test. We'll put everybody's name in the hat. Somebody draws out, and then we'll wait 2 or 3 months and we'll draw another batch out of the same hat. So nobody is targeted, and it's in our personnel policy that we have the right to do random drug testing. And the reason we do that is because of the liability factor involved in the private sector. Is that not part of the reason we should do it for the county?
So I'll talk to Geraldine about it and see what can work out.
Okay. Thank you. There's all kinds of general statutes and federal regulations on that. I used to deal with it all the time, and it'd be impossible for us to do it on our own. You'd have to have a second or third party to do it that does that professionally to even make it work. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry I brought it up.
It's all right.
Thanks, Geraldine.
It's all right.
All right, moving on. Then we'd have the Jetport Transportation Improvement Plan.
Yeah, I think we handed those out to you. Has everybody got this list?
Yes. Trying to figure out where I put it.
23.
We basically took the list as it exists today, and we reprioritized all of this stuff. Ray, I think, was at the meeting. We spent well over an hour on this, but this is the order in which we'd like to have these things considered by the Division of Aviation. And remember, they would do about a 90% grant on most of these things. So we're already doing the ALP update. We just wanted to make sure that it stayed as priority number one. Corporate area expansion, we've done the planning, and now I think I reported to you we had gone to Raleigh last week or the week before and had a meeting with them. We're trying to get the $2.7 million construction grant now. Then we have some land acquisitions, the corporate area expansion phase 2. This would be to add 2 additional corporate hangars. And then the apron expansion, and that would allow for the installation of 2 new corporate hangars on there as well. So I think you can see the emphasis is on trying to get more corporate hangars. Then we would move to T-hangar and taxi lane expansions. Then some more land acquisition for the RPZ. Airfield pavement strengthening. And that's a critical one because it makes a difference how thick your pavement is as to how much weight of an airplane it can handle. So you may have the adequate length of runway for somebody to come in and take off, but if the plane's heavier than what your runway will support, then you have an issue there. Then we do the runway extension and glide slope relocation. And what we're looking at there is adding 1,000 feet to the extension of a runway. We currently have 5,500 linear feet for the runway. This would add 1,000, get you up to 6,500, and that should be able to handle about any corporate aircraft that we would have. But we felt like the strengthening needed to be done first. Then we've got some runway safety area improvements. There's a corporate hangar access road. This would actually go behind where some of our corporate hangars are now, to give those people access there, and then we wouldn't have to allow them to use their access to the runway there, or to the tarmac area. Then looking at a new terminal building, parking lot reconfiguration is part of that, the perimeter fence, and then more land acquisitions. This doesn't mean you're going to get all of these done during that time frame, but that's the order that we would like to see them done. Ray, do you want to add anything to that?
I think you've covered it really well. This is the most activity that I've seen at our jet port since I've been a commissioner and before I became a commissioner. This jet port has really taken off. I think everyone is aware from our last commissioner meeting that right now the jet port is self-sufficient. It's carrying its own weight at this point, which is what we want, what we like as commissioners. So I encourage the commissioners to look at our TIP and ask any questions. Some of these things like the terminal building and so forth have been put way out because the key is that we have to do a priority. So I just thank the commission, the Board of Commissioners, for the support that we're getting at the executive jet port.
Other comments?
I was just, maybe I missed this, but out of a total $23 million, the bulk of that will come from where?
90% on most projects. The one on the airport terminal, I think, is a 50-50 project. But most of them are
90% grant.
Or 90% grant, 10% match.
10% match.
All right, moving on. We've already talked about this with the property of sale of Goldsboro in the county. Then we'd have the county manager's comments, board commissioner comments. And do we need a closed session this morning?
Yes, sir.
We don't have time, I don't believe now, do we?
No.
Mr. Chairman, if we could, Geraldine would like to make one correction.
Okay.
That is under section 5, under Article 4. I'm sorry, under Article 6, Section 10, transfer from other agencies. There is
132, page 132.
Thank you.
There is one phrase in there that is in parentheses, with no break in service from a local or state government retirement system. That actually needed to come out. We do not want to discourage anyone by saying that if you leave work on a Friday, you have to be here on a Monday in order to transfer in your sick time.
Okay.
And some of our forms, you mentioned, Chairman Pate, that we were using some of the PDF forms, and we are working with IT to make sure that all those forms are fillable. We do get calls occasionally saying that they are difficult to complete and then email to HR.
I just recall they look the same, you know.
They are. They're basically the same. One says one county, one says state.
All right, then. We got about 5 minutes before we miss. I'm sorry. We're gonna give you a 5-minute break again. That's what I'm saying. We'll be back about 5 minutes for our regular session.